So the first study technique that we're going to look at is elaboration. And so when you look at elaboration, again, it's taking time to really think about what it is that you are learning and being exposed to, asking those deeper questions. How does this work? Why does this work? Why is this important? And giving kids the opportunity to discuss with classmates is a great opportunity for them to elaborate, because in order to discuss it, they have to think about it and then they have to express their ideas and elaborate on their ideas. So that's a good way when you have those pair shares. That's a good example of how kids can elaborate. The other thing is, when you look at classifying and categorizing, what kids have to do is they have to take this information and they have to figure out how it matches. And one of the things that I would stress here is it's not so much that there's a right categorization and classification. I mean, I suppose it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing science, yeah, maybe. But it's the fact that kids are taking this and they're trying to make their own connections and they're trying to put things in their own groups. And they may be viewing the information in a slightly different way than what we normally or typically would, but that doesn't really matter as long as they can have a reasoning behind why they're putting these things in similar groupings and how they're differentiating between these groupings. That's more important than anything, because they're really processing and they're trying to manipulate. And again, one of the things that research shows is if you can physically manipulate information, if you can touch and feel that information, so having these things like on note cards, where kids can spread them around and move them around, that's going to help them better than if they just kind of look at the board and do it. So those are types of things where you can take compare and contrast is another great way to do this. Even if you're doing a compare contrast, maybe paper, if you just take them and let them take their ideas and start to put them in different piles in different places so they can visually organize it and manipulate it, that's going to be this use of elaboration. And again, if you can connect old information or new information to old information. So if you can, when you're going through and explaining things, think of a time in your life when this happened. And by getting kids to recreate those scenarios and then take this new learning, they're going to attach it to these old experiences and memories, which is going to be a much better way to do it. So one word of caution with this is you want to make sure kids are accurately kind of explaining this and elaborating on it. You don't want them to have a misunderstanding and then make this connection, because it's going to be kind of tough to undo. The other thing is you don't want to stretch too far. But one of the things, elaboration is really why mnemonic devices work, because kids are creating these sentences and they're creating a pattern or a link to information, and that's how they're going to help remember it. Hopefully what kids are going to be able to do is eventually explain this and elaborate on this without having to look back at materials. So at first they might want to practice it by reviewing materials and then kind of elaborating on it, but sooner or later they want to be able to go through and do this on their own, maybe with a little bit of prompting but not a lot, so that way they can just kind of remember this and bring it out when they need it and not have to look back at their notes. So if you want more information, here are some good links and here are some ways to use it.